Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and hopefully many of you have joined us for our past exciting Innovation Week. We've had some successful events, starting out with a panel on developing diagnostics, and then on Friday, our AI and health pitch competition. And in the conversations before and after, there's a clear sense of excitement and enthusiasm with many entrepreneurial conversations that aren't always in the hallways here at the School of Public Health. So we've been very pleased so far. We started with strategy and products. We heard from investigators at the sort of early idea stage, and now for this final event in our Innovation Week, we're opening up to those who aren't sure where they're going, who have some ideas and maybe aren't exactly sure, might not even know where to start. So if you're at this early stage or mid stage or unclear where your innovation path, we want to let you know that the Innovation Translation Council is here to partner and support you. I want to thank Anthony Young, who's the ITC chair. I'm Greg Kirk, the Vice Dean for Research. We're supported by Junie Burke and Sarah Tabinski and our Innovation Translation Council members. So we want to thank and recognize all of those people who are trying to garner this enthusiasm and move it forward. But we're also, as part of this, trying to strengthen our partnerships, both externally as well as within the university. And this is where Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures, or JHTV, comes in. JHTV is a valued partner with ITC and with the school more broadly. They meet investigators from all over the university and help them find their next foothold in this innovation pathway. Today, we're going to hear from 4 Bloomberg School faculty who've done that. They have started with different levels of expertise, different ideas, and different stages of innovation. Each of them have had to overcome some challenges and worked with guidance from JHTV, and they are all really continuing to write their innovation stories. I think it's really important, and one of the things Anthony and I discussed early on is we need more examples of people who've navigated this pathway. We all know, we all were mentored by faculty who were on that academic strict research pathway. It's not so common to hear about people who are embarking on more of an innovation translation pathway. So we're very appreciative of the faculty who have joined us today to share their stories: Michelle Kaufman, Chintan Pandya, George Demopoulos, and Lena Smirnova. We also very much want to thank JHTV for being with us. In a moment, you're going to hear from Danielle Caravello, who's an expert in corporate partnerships, and who will sit with Michelle and Chintan. And later, Laura Mitchell, who is a leader in intellectual property, who will sit with Lena and George. Other JHTV colleagues will also, with a range of expertise, will be available after the session to join us in the gallery for lunch and to learn more and answer your specific questions. If everyone's here, I'm not sure who's back protecting our intellectual property, but thanks everyone for coming to join us. And with this introduction, again, thank you for coming and participating. I'm going to now pass it along to Liz Berger, who is JHTV's Director of Strategic Initiatives, who's going to give a more detailed insight into what JHTV Pathways offer.
Hello. Again, my name is Liz Berger. I am Head of Strategy and Administration at Johns Hopkins Tech Ventures, also known as JHTV. We are not a TV station. We are not media related, so I want to ground us in our mission for clarity for folks who may have heard that acronym and wondering what that means. In my capacity as head of strategy, I get to be a bit of a mission statement nerd. So I think this crowd might appreciate the notion of a mission statement, and I think it actually really aligns with the purpose of today. So our mission is to foster a dynamic ecosystem in which Johns Hopkins University innovators, which you all are in some manner, but maybe whether aspiring or experienced, are supported in the commercial translation of discoveries that benefit communities locally and globally. The reason that I want to pause on the mission statement primarily is to hone in on the whether aspiring or experienced. We really do aim to serve the entire continuum of folks who are just wondering if maybe there is a commercial opportunity, or folks who have done startups multiple times and want help with their latest idea. And then I also want to just hone in on the local and global piece of this. We are very much grounded in Baltimore, but the idea is that the things that we do can have ripple effects throughout the world. I also want to hone in on the commercial part of that. You all do all sorts of translational things. The particular flavor of translation that we support is commercial, which basically just means we're trying to figure out how the marketplace can be the vehicle for dissemination and scale. These words are a little bit hard to read, but basically there's a continuum. Most things start with research, or in the case of students, maybe it's not formal research, but it could be just an idea that you have. There typically is some sort of discovery or invention that is not yet a product. It needs some work. It probably needs capital. It probably needs a third party who can run with it, because you're probably not a full-time business person. Sometimes that's a startup, sometimes it's an established company, and at the end of the day, the idea is that there is something out in the world that is a product or maybe a service that is being delivered to society. Getting all the way to product is very hard. It doesn't happen that often. Most of the projects that we see are in some intermediate stage. There's been more than research, but there's been less than a product. And so I just have up here a few of the things that we consider wins when we work with faculty. It could be that project gets funded by industry, so it's being de-risked. It could be that there's a patent, still far from a product, but we've got intellectual property. It could be that you have a company that raised money. Again, it's not yet a product, but it's getting there. A license is signed, an exciting project gets de-risked through a translational grant, or maybe you just have a business plan and some clarity as to what the commercial path could be. And then my last slide, we got a little, maybe arguably, the most important team is missing, but technology transfer is really where many of you may have heard of JHTV. All universities since 1980 have been obligated to do a thing called tech transfer. So that is kind of our bread and butter, but increasingly we have built a lot of additional services. It can be complicated to navigate, so that's one reason that we're all going to be here afterwards to help folks who want to figure out where to plug in. But I also have my name here because I'm a good which team is relevant and where should I start. But just briefly, so corporate partnerships in the middle, intellectual property and licensing. We're one of the busiest tech transfer offices in the nation, and we get lots of folks who come with a thing and say, I don't know if it's protectable, I don't know if I want to protect it, but here's this thing. Our corporate partnerships team is laser focused on industry research collaborations. So that means I want to partner with a business entity, not a foundation or the government, and I want to try to find ways to access capital and expertise through a research collaboration. And then on the right, fast forward, you can think of fast forward as moving stuff forward, agnostic of path, and in particular, if you want to start a company, there's a very robust service offering for folks who are feeling entrepreneurial and want to work on business planning, mentorship, et cetera. So with that, I'll be around. There are 10 folks from JHTV who will be available to talk with you about your specific projects and help you navigate. And we're just glad that you're here and looking forward to getting some new projects off the ground. And I think I'm passing to Anthony.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Liz. The Innovation Translation Council, or the ITC, is 1 year old this month. We'll come back to what we do at the end, but first, what brings us all here. Today is the closing event of Innovation Week 2026. Wednesday, as Greg mentioned, we have the diagnostic panel. Fridays, we have the AI and healthcare idea tank, and now this. The audience we most wanted in this room are people who haven't yet engaged in the innovation translation journey. including partnership with Johns Hopkins Tech Venture. We know we are at ground zero. So whoever come here, we love you. We want to help you. We want you to be succeed in terms of like thinking the next step. That's what ITC is here for. So faculty, tenure track, non-tenure track, postdoc, students, staff, you are all we care about. Senior faculty whose research has shifted into new territory that suddenly might be translatable, we're here. So come to find out if any of you, you're exactly who we are doing it for today. I'm a professor from the Biochemistry and Molecular Biology department. What I aim for ITC is to provide a place where investigator can talk to investigator in their innovation translation journey and how we can like move it together, learn it together. That's what ITC is for. So what follow is 2 fireside chats. So we have 2 fireside chats hosted by our partners in JHTV with a 5 minutes audience Q&A into each. The first chat will be with Daniel Cavavino. It's about finding an industry partner, how a research company, program find a company that fund the next stage of their work together, co-developing some invention together. You will hear from Michelle Kaufman and then also Chintan Panda. The second chat would be with Laura Mitchell. In this case, we are thinking to walk through like how your research to a company arc. So from filing an invention disclosure to licensing with or without a patent, to taking your research into a company. Sometimes it is an existing one, or sometimes a startup the faculty member founds. So you will hear from Lina Smirnova and then George Dimopoulos. After the chat, I will come back briefly with what the ITC is up to and how you can plug in. Then we move next door to the gallery for pizza and also for staffed JHTV station ready to talk through your specific case. So without further ado, Daniel, over to you. So maybe Daniel and also Chitan and Michelle.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for joining, Michelle and Chintan. We'll start with Michelle's questions today. Michelle, can you please take us back to before you started? What made you curious about industry engagement in the first place? Can you highlight key reasons that led you to want to explore industry engagements?
Sure. Is this one on? Okay, there we go. So I've always been interested in technology, particularly social media. I am a social scientist by training, a social psychologist. So when I was in grad school, a lot of the social media platforms were just coming online, and I was watching in real time how these things impact social relationships and health. And so early in my professorial career, pursued a KO1, where I could learn how to design apps that would go on these smartphones and integrate social media into those, and was able to learn a lot of training and skills and data analysis that would follow that. But I quickly realized that for an academic to do that stuff on their own with NIH funding, it's way too slow. The technology was accelerating beyond me at a very rapid pace. And by the time I had a behavioral or social and behavioral change intervention ready, the technology was already out of date. And so I realized that the way to really have my work make impact in a timely way where it was still relevant was to start to partner with industry, with companies that were already doing the technology, but then I could bring the science and the evidence to making their products better.
Great. Michelle, there is sometimes a perception that industry engagement is only for certain types of research, like bench science or big labs. How would you respond to that?
I'd say that's absolutely not true, and especially now as we're seeing so many digital technologies, including AI, that is already playing a large role in social and behavioral science as it relates to health as well. So when I first started getting my training around technology and smartphones, apps, wearable devices, it was all focused on the medical field, medical outcomes. But I realized that I could partner with folks to look at, well, why is it only working for certain populations? What are the social or structural factors that contribute to maybe lack of adherence or lack of uptake among certain populations? How could we use these devices to address some of the social factors that are playing into the health outcomes that we all ultimately want to see? And so it was really conversations with medical folks who are interested in more traditional health outcomes to say, like, well, if we also look at these devices and tools from a social and behavioral perspective, then the uptake and the use of these technological tools could be more effective.
So for someone in the audience who has never connected with JHTV, what actually happens when you first connect with JHTV? How do your day-to-day conversations and interactions look like? And when you engage with industry, is there an etiquette to engage?
Yeah, so originally you all sought me out. I had received an SBIR grant from NIMH in collaboration with a company who had an app focused on improving mental health of teens. So we got that grant, and then I think SBIR or JH Ventures became aware of that and said, well, could that be translatable? Could my expertise be translatable to other companies doing similar things? And so when you all approached me, I had the same thoughts as many of my colleagues, like, I don't know, I've never, other than this one company that I knew, I didn't know how to work and approach companies from the beginning. But JHTV walked me through it. I learned how to create a pitch deck. I asked a lot of questions around, well, how scientific should I be in these conversations? What sort of things should I emphasize? Are they going to be concerned about the science or the revenue? And so I quickly learned, like, just having the conversations with the leadership at these companies who are often have science backgrounds or they appreciate the science, it became a natural conversation as long as you could sort of learn to speak each other's language, right? So for me, I've developed the skill over the years of being able to talk about my research to a wide audience. And I think that's important because you're going to have to meet these industry folks where they are. They're not going to worry about, all of your statistical tests and your power analyses and whatnot. But they ultimately want to know, if we scale this thing, what potential impact could it have? And what will it do to our product placement and revenue? So just being aware of sort of the perspective that they're coming from, and at the same time saying, well, here's what I could offer in terms of scientific evidence, and here's what the latest publications are saying about the outcomes that you're interested in. Or here's what the science says does not work as effectively. And so if you're able to speak in sort of the middle of those two lanes, industry and science, I think that ends up becoming the best approach. In terms of etiquette, I was nervous going into those first few meetings, like, what should I be wearing? How should I be speaking? But you very quickly realize that they're just people as well. They might speak a slightly different language than academics do. But again, if you can speak simply about your work, then you can communicate effectively.
That's great. Has this process changed how you think about your research or its potential impact?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I was already thinking like the traditional NIH route for the type of technology-informed or technology-driven intervention work that I wanted to do. That NIH review cycle is just too slow for it, right? And now it's even worse. And so being able to partner with industry where they're already the experts on the technology side, can often move things at a much more rapid pace and make it relevant in the now rather than waiting for NIH to get on board with those innovations. Quite honestly, I ran into a lot of walls with NIH funding because the review sections would say, I don't know, this seems risky and we don't really see, how this is going to be relevant, but industry was already there, right? And so being able to partner with industry, I realized could produce much more impact, have greater reach with my work.
Great. Were there moments where you felt stuck or unsure and JHTV helped you figure out the next step? Can you share an example?
Yeah, so there have been several meetings with different companies where they got stuck. Like we hit a wall, we put together a concept note, maybe a top line budget, and they're like, well, no, we can't afford a Hopkins partner right now. But you can see oftentimes in those meetings that the company's really interested in how we view things from a scientific perspective. And so JHTV has helped with sort of maintaining those relationships, following up later, is now a good time to continue the conversation, tracking the companies to see where they are in terms of their growth. Maybe a year down the road, it'll be a better timing to fund a project that we collaborated on.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'll move to Chintan. Chintan, you are now engaging with a company called DecisionRx. Can you tell us how did the first engagement with JHTV start on the DecisionRx case?
Yeah, sure. I think it was probably similar to Michelle as well. So for us, like it didn't start like we didn't go and say like how can we commercialize our current research portfolio, our expertise in a way that we can make product out of it. It was like we already had an applied research expertise in our center, which is Center for Population Health IT, CFIT it stands for. And we are the research and development hub for ACG system, which is population health analytics software and one of the biggest sort of school of public health innovation tech stories and product out there. And it has been out in the market for almost 40 years. And so we already had this kind of research agenda, applied research agenda that had operational relevance. And so JHTV, Daniel, sort of reached out to some of the companies, either they are existing users of ACG or are in the area that uses our ACG software. And Daniel was able to identify an existing company that uses ACG currently in a different context within their medication treatment optimization sort of intervention. And what they were impressed by were like all the features that are in the software, but they were sort of lacking the evidence sort of development evaluation framework and rigorous methodological framework that would take their product to next level in terms of its scalability, its value, its application to a different population and so forth. And so so Daniel pretty much set up like it was a relatively simpler process, initial process, which was Daniel set up a call between our center leadership and the company leadership, and trying to understand what each organization's goals are, and then seeing where there can be opportunities for research collaboration that enhances both organizations' sort of goals and sort of direction. And so after that, we pretty much were able to, within the first two conversation, we were able to identify areas, a couple of areas which we thought were GHU or our Center for Population Health, IT-CFIT, could bring our applied research expertise to their evaluation of the intervention program, and where the company, the industry partner DecisionRx, would be able to show value for their product. And we moved through the research agreement process, and the whole process went forward. And it's opportune time that last week only we just signed an agreement with them officially. So we have entered into a 3-year sort of an agreement, a research agreement with this industry partner.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Chintan. What surprised you most about the support available from JHTV? Was there something you didn't expect?
Yeah, definitely. Like before this experience, my initial sort of perception of JHTV, because as I mentioned, I'm the Director of Research and Development for ACG, which is our like IP, and already has sort of a business arm, and we undertake a lot of IP activities. And so my initial perception was JHTV is usually involved in licensing or patenting or helping with the legal paperwork. What surprised me most was like JHTV and Daniel, their support was more strategic rather than paperwork or helping with some of the administrative like sort of process work. So one example is that as we were developing our proposal and we are trying to show, make a value proposition for our research plan and the phases that we laid out, and Daniel sort of helped us convert our academic language and academic value proposition to industry value proposition to show that while we can undertake our academic goals and academic sort of rigorness and impactability, he made sure that what we are proposing is also valuable and understandable from the industry side, and they see value in investing in this relationship. So that was something that was really helpful. And then throughout the process of developing research agreement, negotiating with the industry partner, setting up sort of meetings and timelines and contracts. So all of that process, I had no experience with any of those. The only thing that I came in this whole process was like our research expertise, public health research expertise with operational sort of application, and JHTV Daniel walked us through the whole process to the end, and probably more than that, because we are still undertaking some discussion where JHTV and Daniel have been helpful in moving along that process.
So were there moments where you felt stuck or unsure, and JHTV helped you figure out the next step? Can you share an example? And then if you can also highlight some aspects of protecting IP and licensing out IP, that would be good.
Right. Yeah, no, that is another important thing, because with industry partnership, industry academic partnership, I did not have any experience going into it. And so I was not sure about all the processes, and the main thing that I learned was developing a standard research agreement that around the proposal. So we are used to developing like our NIH kind of proposal. We have our aims, and then we said this is how we will measure the impact, and this is what will be the deliverables. But converting into a research agreement is an important step that JHTV and Daniel sort of helped us, and I wasn't sure how to align that to the industry standards, essentially. And one of the important aspect was an IP creation. So in our phase 3 or stage 3 of the project, we said, we'll develop a novel algorithm that may help this company DecisionRx identify patients more accurately and it will have more impact, like more revenue generated and so forth from the product. And Daniel helped us identify potential patent or IP potential of this research aim, and he helped negotiate terms with the industry sort of partner to make sure that our academic and faculty interests are sort of appropriately captured in the research agreement, while also balancing that the industry partner gets value out of it so that they are able to invest in this relationship. So I think that was where like we went a lot of back and forth with the industry partner on the research agreement term, and JHTV working with the legal team, they helped us create a term or agreement that was sort of seen beneficial to both the organizations. So my takeaway was that I didn't need to be an expert in IP or legal terms, and JHTV and legal team really helped me through to make sure, because there are times, like sometimes industry partners have sort of, I won't call it red lines, but there are certain terms that they won't budge, and so negotiating with them effectively is important to make sure that the partnership sort of comes to fruition, and JHTV helped us with that.
That's great. I think it's good time to see in the audience whether there are any question while we are listening to this fireside chat, because it's meant to be interactive, and then if you have question, while we're waiting, I can ask the first one. So mentioned about earlier that JHTV go to sort out certain, because that's Michelle also mentioned about that. And then while Chintan case is more like, oh, I have been doing all this thing, but if I'm really from the very beginning, how does this process work? Maybe you guys can chime in. Like Daniel, maybe you can mention from the JHTV side, and then Michelle and Chintan, you can comment.
Yeah, we have many ways to do outreach, LinkedIn, conferences. Start with a sector of the university, start with a professor, area of interest. Start with the area of interest from companies that we're engaging with. Start with a trend on the market. So it starts, my answer is there are many ways to start. Yep.
But then for a new faculty or a faculty who are new to this, how can you get the attention from JHTV?
Yeah, come talk to us. Again, we're going to have several people here today. But also in general, if you're not today, come talk to us. Just us learning about your research areas of interest is already very helpful. We keep that in mind when we are talking to companies, and we talk to many companies daily, right?
Yeah.
And also a proactive outreach can happen.
How about Chintan or Michelle? How will you tell your colleague?
So for me, my team was publishing some work on the impact of digital media on teen mental health, and then we got that SBIR award, and so Daniel's team became aware of that and started reaching out to companies, and then because that's a hot topic right now, right? Teen mental health. And so then when he reached out to me, he's like, hey, I've got like 5 companies that would like to talk with you. Do you want to set up meetings? And I was very surprised, right? Because they did all the legwork behind that. But I was like, yeah, if they're doing similar work to what I'm already doing, or my work will inform their product, then yeah, let's set up some meetings.
Yeah, for me, I would say initially I thought like, oh, corporate or like academic industry partnership is fraught with like you have to sort of either abandon public health goals or not undertake academic sort of rigor. But actually the partnership, the Decision RX partnership that happened was essentially because there was strong alignment on those principles that the company wanted to generate very rigorous evidence-based of their intervention, and they were also interested in patient outcomes. So sometimes like researchers may think that my research may not have alignment or it may not be applicable in real world. The main thing is for you initially to start thinking about how can your academic and research goals can be aligned with some industry goals, and then you can interact with JHTV and say that, oh, these are the areas that my intervention or this can be applicable. And for example, Daniel already knows our ACG system and all the features and the things that are out there in the software. So he sort of made sure to identify industry partner who sort of are aligned with our goals, academic goals of rigor, public health research, as well as rigorous evidence-based generation. So I think that was my experience with JHTV.
Can I add one other thing to piggyback on what you said? I find that many of my colleagues who do more of the social and behavioral side of public health often feel like industry is in contradiction to what they do. But I talk to them about the fact that a lot of this new digital technology in particular is not going anywhere. So how can we as scientists inform these companies that are leading it to make sure that the technology is being used for good and can have a strong scientific evidence base to inform it to produce the best public health outcomes?
Do we have time?
Yeah, quite much.
Yes, I have a question for Michelle. It seems like there's a lot of competing, it's a crowded industry, would be my perception. And you seem to have engaged with many different companies. So I'm just interested in how you sort of, it seems like you might sign an NDA with each one, but it's overlapping areas of your expertise. And I'm just interested in how you sort of navigate sort of being in that sort of advisor role with many people who might consider themselves competitors, and if that's caused some issues.
So far, it's not been an issue. The companies I've worked with have had slightly different audiences. So the one I have the SBIR with, it's high school teens. I worked with another app company that was tied to the music industry, and they were really focused on young adults and normalizing mental health struggles, particularly for young Asian Americans. And so we were talking to another company that was interested in like queer college students. So they tend to try to find their own niche, and so far that hasn't created conflict.
Great. Thank you very much for the first fireside chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope to have more. So let me invite Laura, Lina, and also George for the second chat.
Morning, everybody. I'm Laura Mitchell, and I head up the Intellectual Property Managers team in the tech transfer arm of JHTV, and I'm very happy today to be talking to Lena and George. Let's start with you, Lena. You're an innovator on several technologies, some with patent applications and some without, including 2 that are courses available through Coursera. Can you talk us through the initial process, how you and your colleagues decided to approach JHTV with a report of invention?
Yeah, so I'm on 3 patents. No, I'm on 2 patents, and I'm involved in one research, which is I'm not on the patent, or I'm not involved in IP, and I'm representing Thomas Hartung, director of our center, who is owner of IP and cannot be here today. I must to say the last 2 patents I was involved in was for School of Engineering, and it was very recent, and it was really straightforward, easy process to do. And as was mentioned before, not speaking the language, JHTV was helping a lot to understand the process and make it smooth. So basically, the only thing you need to know is your research, and that's it, and they will guide you through. Our first adventure with filing IP and getting to commercialization was bumpier. It was probably 2016-17, we decided to file IP and create a company around that. And again, filing IP was quite a straightforward process. But then the hurdles start to became when we decided to create a company, because if you're a senior professor trying to do something on the side, there are only 24 hours in a day you can work. And we realized very quickly that just making a company on the side doesn't work very well. And so our first adventure was when we create a company, we we were responsible for finding CEO, and that just didn't work out. So the CEO we found was not a person which should be our CEO, basically, so we tanked the company, basically. And I think, just in quick advice, I think it would be nice, either you are committed 100% to the company and you have time to do so as a IP owner, or you have to have somebody on the team, let's say a very entrepreneurial postdoc. You can say, like, this would be your next step in a career. So if you have this person, that can also work very well. Yeah, and then we found an existing company and did the exclusive license with existing company, and that was much straightforward process.
Great, thanks. You already anticipated one of my questions. When
Sorry.
it was, how much time does this, working with JHTV and then thinking about talking about protecting your IP and then doing commercialization, that sounds like it's challenging to try to balance that on your own without assistance.
Correct.
And still, excel at your day job, right?
I think filing IP is a rather fast and straightforward experience than next steps on the road.
Since you've done those things, what benefits or outcomes have you seen, especially as your technology has progressed over time?
It's a little bit challenging, and again, it's not necessarily to do with how we've done things, or it's just, for example, there is third party involved, this company, and then you expect the company to deliver, and then you have to be on their toes to see whether they deliver, hit the milestones. And again, in this case, was also we are not millionaires, unfortunately. So, and that's where you encounter different type of challenges, right? So how to communicate with the company you licensed your technology to in a way you get the best benefit from it and make them work toward you. So that's is really balance where you want to know, do I want to have my own spin-off or I want to work with somebody? Because, for example, this company went through restructure, they changed CEO, CTO, everybody left, and then you work with completely new people. So there's all those things which are not a very straightforward line to do.
Did you have any concerns or hesitations before you started working with us, and how did we alleviate those? Hopefully,
no. I think I could also see a lot of changes in these last 10 years. I think it's much more structured now, and you have like a assigned person to you. So I feel like the last 5 years maybe changed a lot in your structure and in the support. So I see a lot of improvement there.
that's great to hear. We have really improved and grown in the last 10 years. Can you share a specific moment where you may have thought, I'm glad I'm doing this. This is really working.
I think our classes you mentioned in the first question, in addition to our research IP we filed, we created 2 classes and put them on Coursera. This was really very great experience I had. And it's on toxicology, it's a very niche topic, and maybe some of you will be laughing if I say, oh, we have 20,000 active learners on Coursera, and those from biostats department with 100,000, like, but for us, it's huge numbers, right? So, and basically what my role was is to have my lectures, which were already online classes here, provide to we had a dedicated people who worked with us through the entire process, developed the intros. So it was very, very, very easy process to do. And unfortunately, Coursera changing their strategy now, so I don't know where it's going in the moment. I see a little bit. So although this process was excellent and we were very happy having these 2 classes, to put new classes was more hurdle and would involve more support, monetary. You need to provide more money, let's say, and pay for it. And I think the discrepancy between the researcher and Hopkins as an entity would be, would like to reach as much as possible people, and I think the school would rather have a profit as a goal, right? So that's where we have to balance our goals.
That's fair. What would you say to a colleague who worried that their work isn't advanced enough or developed enough to start to work with JHTV?
I don't know. I mean, if it's not development, you still can file and patent or IP. It just might not go anywhere, right? That will be the worst outcome of not trying, or trying and failing, right? So it's better than but not trying at all.
That's a really good point. I always say, talk to us early and often with our report of invention. Thanks, Lena. And I'll switch over to
Yes.
George. George, I've had the pleasure with working with you for probably 10 years now. Your portfolio includes patented technologies and 2 non-exclusively licensed biological materials. I think, and I worked with you on the first report of invention. Can you remember back then, what prompted you to approach us?
Well,
There you go.
okay, yeah. So we stumbled on this innovation or technology by serendipity. We were not looking to develop a product. We were studying microbes that interact with insect vectors that transmit human diseases. And it turned out that one of these microbes were very good at killing mosquitoes. And at that same time, a pandemic was happening, the Zika pandemic, and we were approached by a large government organization interested in developing control strategies for that pandemic, controlling mosquitoes basically, to explore the possibility of developing this microbe into a biological insecticide or a microbial biopesticide. And through that funding process, we realized that we need to patent it. And that's how we came to you. And it was a very smooth process and good experience, I must say. And it has been a long-lasting, until this day, learning experience.
Can you speak a little bit about, do you remember kind of what happens when you submit a report of invention to our office? And then what's the next thing that happens?
Well, you submit the report of invention and then you get contacted by one of your patent lawyers, I believe. And I actually been very impressed with the patent lawyer. We basically sent him a manuscript which became a patent application. And we actually learned a lot through that patent application too by reading it. So that was a very good experience. And then things just move on from there, I would say.
Great. We have 2 patent counsel on staff at Hopkins Tech Ventures, and then we also work with outside counsel. So it's great to hear that you had a good experience. What benefits and outcomes have you seen since you reported the inventions to us?
Yeah, there are many benefits to report an invention and also to pursue the patenting. First of all, it provides credibility to the technology, because if you have a patent on it, it means that it's actually something real, something that's been tested and vetted. So it also becomes much easier to attract funding and interest from other industry partners. Once you say you have a patent, that opens doors. There are also funding entities that actually require you to have a patent. They would not interact with you, they would not open the doors for you if you didn't have a patent on it. You can also speak about the innovation more openly and freely if you have patented it. You don't have to worry about someone stealing the idea. So there are many advantages of having that patent. And it also, the process of crafting that patent application also makes you see things that you may have to look into in terms of refining the technology or structuring it for a different type of market and so on.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about, to the degree that you were involved with our licensing team for the biological materials license? How did that happen? What goes on?
Yeah, we have been involved multiple times, I think, exploring different licensing options. And one challenge with developing this type of product, the microbial pesticide at Hopkins, is that Hopkins is not a player in agricultural pest control or mosquito control. Those are mostly land-grant universities like Cornell or Penn State. So there is no prior expertise really at Hopkins in that sector. And there's also no other innovators you can talk to who have spun out companies to control some beetle that eats cucumbers. So so that was a bit challenging, I think, both for us and for you as well. But I think it went well. We were sort of walking hand in hand and exploring different industries and potential clients that would be interested in licensing, and you mediated some interactions as well.
Great. Was there anything surprising about any of this process?
I guess there were many surprises.
Good or bad surprise?
No, they were good surprises. They were good surprises. And well, one very fruitful interaction was one of our latest one a couple of years ago, where I think we were discussing whether we should actually form a company or not, whether we should spin it out or whether we should just keep it in the lab for the time being. And that was a very important discussion where we eventually realized that we should probably keep it in the lab, because it was still maybe a little bit premature for forming a company. And if you spin out, it comes with some challenges, because then you don't really own the technology anymore as, you know, a company, but you have to license it from Hopkins. You also have to rent incubator space. You have to move your operations out. You can't continue working on it in the lab. So we thought it's better to develop it further, to make it more solid, and in that way also de-risk it. And then you can approach funders, including VC, and not having to dilute it too much. Well, if you go at a very early stage, you will face those challenges.
Those are great points, thanks. That leads right into my question is, what would you say to a colleague who thinks their work is too early or not commercial enough? And I don't know if it's worth anybody's time. And
I don't think there's never going to be a too early stage to explore. And I would recommend anyone who has something which they feel maybe there is actually a commercial potential for this, to start exploring it, talk to JHTV, talk to other innovators and company owners at Hopkins, which JHTV has the contacts of, but also reach outside of those frames and try to gather as much information as possible, because there are many hidden opportunities that you were never aware of. You may have made a discovery that seems to have a potential to become a product for a certain market segment, while you've actually missed the most important market segment because you were not even aware of it. So talking to people and gathering information, I think, is a key, and you really have to do that. And today we also have this incredible tool called AI, which is really good at market research. So it can give you a lot of very useful information and comprehensive information that can at least get you started.
thanks.
Great. Question from the audience for the second part, more about your product and how, yep.
Could we just clarify, George, could you clarify about that manuscript that turned into the patent? That was an unpublished manuscript.
Correct. It was an unpublished manuscript that...
The way you said it made me think it had already been out there.
No, it was a draft. Yeah. So that's something that it's good to coordinate that and make sure it's not out there.
I could add to that. So it's for the United States, it's not too late if it's within a year of publication. So please, please, please come ask us and we can talk you through that.
Yeah, I think this would be good to bring it up is, what is the timeline? Most of you mentioned there's never too early. What would be a good timeline? Like, because when you have a manuscript, it's also rushing for the JHTV side. I experienced previously. It's not, I mean, you guys help a lot, but it's also, you can develop further as what George said.
We can nearly always manage. If you come to us and say, next week I'm going to a conference, it's not an ideal timeline, but we can manage that if we have to. A lot of times we get reports of invention where the manuscript hasn't been submitted yet, or we can, and that gives us plenty of time for an application to be drafted, edited, polished. If there's a shorter timeline, we can work in with that, but it's not ideal for you or us, but please don't let that stop you from coming to us and go, is it too late? Because we'll work with you.
Any other question? Yeah, right.
thank you everyone for talking. I'm wondering about non-intellectual property type development. For example, you mentioned Coursera, right? Coursera came out of the Stanford Computer Science Department, but there was no like intellectual property, so to speak of, in that company, and it eventually went public. I guess what I'm wondering about, what are there outlets and solutions and avenues available for people who have ideas but don't necessarily have an intellectual property or patent component to what they're doing?
I can keep talking. So some things are copyright, right? So we can register a copyright with the U.S. Copyright Office. Those things can also be licensed. We can license biological materials, copyrights, things like that.
That's great. Any other question? If not, thank you, Laura. Thank you, George. Thank you, Lina. So thank you once again for Daniel, Laura, and then also Michelle, Chintan, Lina, George, and for the candor of what you experience. I think this is good. That's the community that we are creating. Want to share about our experience and how we can move forward at BSPH. So I want to say a few thank yous. Thank you also to Sarah Tabinski and Julian Berg at the research at BSPH. None of the Innovation Week happens without them. And to Brittany Jenkins-Lott, who has been with us through the planning process and stood ready as my backup today. Thank you. So what you just heard, those 4 stories, are exactly the kind of stories the Innovation Translation Council was built to surface and to support. Now I get to tell you what the ITC actually does. So ITC have a strategy, is to educate, engage, and elevate. We help colleagues, faculty, postdocs, students, staff, learn the path from a discovery to scalable solution. The 4th story you just heard a part of it. Like Michelle Pivot from a posted KO1 to industry partner coming to her is one example of educate when it lands. So we will have a case story coming up this week. And the story that you heard from George about like how the interaction, how to prepare the company, how much information you need. There's already a case study on the website already. So we want to share, as Greg mentioned, how do we do it here? Who has done it? We want to showcase one by one to you guys. And then there is also, if you're a student, we have Antonella Stuliolo, who make an IUD company, Upsilon. Is this really born from her MPH capstone? So that's another example. And we engage, we connect across our ecosystem here with the JHTV, with also like local partner, all the different schools, and also outside our university. So come to talk to us. And particular last survey indicate that 85% of our faculty have never interacted with JHTV. So we have a lot of room to grow, and that's where we are here for. And hope today is the next chapter of that. And we elevate the work that is already happening, make sure the resources, like what Liz walked through earlier, can actually reach faculty, students, staff in their inbox when they are ready. So for those who come here, I'm sure that you see my email in your inbox already. So another thing, if you don't know where to start, this also brings to the topics that George mentioned. AI is really helpful. So we have make an ITC chatbot, we train it on JHTV web resources, and also we put some ITC information. So you can just try it here. You can ask your question at 11 p.m. Nobody knows. So you just say, oh, how can I file patents? How much money get if I file, if this be successful? So this can provide an accurate information to it. But we're in beta stage. So there is a survey come along, something that you see, oh, something is missing. Come to fill in the survey, just 2 questions, 2 seconds. Just put it there, and then we will try to make it work for you guys. Finally, a few easy ways to plug in. Just sign up to stay involved with the ITC, we're collecting a lot of funding information as a database. So some of our faculty is very good at grant writing. If you want that mindset, we have a database for you to just scan it. There is an Excel table that Sarah continue to update, so you can know more about it. Follow us on LinkedIn, join our Slack community. We are building one step at a time. So now those 3 questions on the screen. How can I secure patents? How do I submit an invention disclosure? How do I take a first step towards industry funding? These are the questions a lot of you walk in with. Next door, we have answers. So the gallery is open for the next 2 hours. I think let's bring 10 of their staff to come. And then PISA is there. They have 4 staffed JHTV station, licensing, corporate relations, startup, and also mentorship. And then we also have a first step station. If you want to file invention disclosure or call for industry proposal, you say that, oh, how do I find my industry partner? It's outside. So take the time to take the resources. They're on the spot. JHTV will guide you. So JHTV and ITC are here to help you. So to take the first step. Let's go. Thank you.